Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Balanced Narrative. Assalamu alaikum Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, so what's the topic of discussion for today?
Inshallah, today we're going to discuss a topic that's often neglected, but it's super important.
You mean marriage?
No, Abdurrahman, you'll have to wait your turn for that. We're actually going to talk about zakat, one of the 5 pillars of Islam.
Sheikh, I give charity all the time. I always give tips to waiters at restaurants.
Well, Abdurrahman, that's nice of you to do that, but the Quran has outlined specific people who are worthy and eligible to receive zakat, and unfortunately waiters are not on that list.
Okay, that's a fair point, but I also give to the homeless when I see them on the street. For example, I give my old sneakers and clothes. That counts, right?
That's generous of you, Abdurrahman, but there are a few more things to consider regarding zakat. So let's break it down.
So what is zakat exactly?
So zakat is a compulsory act of worship. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Just like salat is compulsory, likewise zakat is compulsory. When Allah Ta'ala mentions salat in the Quran, He also mentions zakat. Aqimu salat wa atu zakat. Establish salat and give the zakat.
What does the word zakat exactly mean?
So the linguistic meaning of zakat is at-tahara, purity. Because when a person discharges his zakat, it's said that he purifies his remaining wealth. He also purifies himself from excessive greed and love of wealth. And likewise, it has the meaning of an-nama, nama yanmu, which means increase or growth. As a person who pays zakat, his wealth will actually increase and grow in barakah. The Shari'i meaning of zakat is that a person who owns the Nisaab takes out a stipulated amount and gives it to the needy person or persons who are eligible to receive zakat, in such a manner that the recipient assumes ownership. That is tamlik. Transfer of ownership is necessary and a condition for zakat to be fulfilled.
So Sheikh, what about all these fundraising dinners that raise money for mosques? Can I pay zakat to mosques?
We should give money for establishing mosques. However, our zakat obligation has not been fulfilled if we give to mosques, because mosques are not one of the recipients of zakat. And also there is no tamlik found here. There's no transfer of ownership. Who owns the zakat once you've given it? The mosque doesn't own it, because the mosque itself is owned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, the condition of tamlik, which is transfer of ownership, is not found, and also mosques are not one of the recipients of zakat as mentioned in the Quran. And any other project like building a well for people to drink, or a graveyard, a Muslim cemetery, all of this, you cannot use zakat money for these noble purposes. There are a few things we need to understand. The zakatable assets, the nisaab, the day of zakat or the zakat day, and the amount of zakat to be paid. Now let's start with zakatable assets. Zakatable assets are the wealth that are those items that we own that are subject to zakat.
Sheikh, speaking of assets, what qualifies as zakatable? Are my old sneakers considered zakatable?
No, Abdurrahman. I'm not sure that many people will be interested in those old sneakers of yours. However, the zakatable assets are cash or any form of currency, gold and silver, because actually both gold and silver are considered true currency, original currency, as per the Sharia. Then there's the merchandise that has been purchased for trade purposes, any form of merchandise. And the 5th are farm animals and farm produce, which we're not going to talk about here because not everyone owns sheep or cows or camels.
I'd like to one day.
Yeah, inshallah. When you do, then we'll discuss it, inshallah.
So what about gold and silver jewelry?
Good question. So jewelry that has been purchased to be worn and used as an adornment is something which the fuqaha, the scholars of Islam, have differed upon. whether it's obligatory to pay zakat on jewelry or not. So the Hanafis are of the view, the Hanafi school of thought, they say that it is obligatory to pay zakat on it. Because as mentioned, gold and silver, according to Sharia, is actually a form of currency. It's the original currency. The Hanafis' view is more cautious and backed by strong evidence, and they say that zakat is wajib upon jewelry.
So I don't have to pay zakat on my car or house?
No, you don't have to pay zakat on your cars or your houses if you are using them and you purchase them to be used. However, if you purchased cars and houses for the sake of reselling, then yes, you would have to pay zakat on the value of your cars and houses.
Sheikh, what about diamonds? Diamonds are worth more than gold and silver. Do I pay zakat on them?
It's true that diamonds are worth more than gold and silver in some cases. However, diamond is not considered a form of currency. So unless you're dealing in diamonds and you purchase diamonds to sell them, then you would not pay zakat on diamonds.
So Sheikh, what is a Nisaab?
So the Nisaab refers to the minimum amount of wealth a Muslim must possess before they are obligated to pay zakat. So the Nisaab is that threshold that determines if someone is required to give a portion of their wealth in zakat or not. If a Muslim's wealth falls below the Nisaab, then they don't have to pay zakat. But if their wealth reaches the Nisaab or is more than the Nisaab, in that case they would have to pay zakat. So as mentioned before, the Sharia recognizes gold and silver as the original currency, which remains so even after the introduction of paper money. So the Nisaab of gold is 87.48 grams, and the Nisaab of silver is 612.36 grams. Hence, if a person owns only gold or only silver, then they'll have a look. Does my gold amount to 87.48 grams? In which case, zakat would be due on me, 2.5% of the value of that. And likewise, does my silver, if I own silver, does it equal 612.36 grams? In which case, if it does, I'd have to pay zakat on it. If I only own gold and only own silver and my ownership is less than that threshold, then I don't have to pay zakat on it. However, if a person owns other zakatable items, other wealth which is subjected to zakat, then they would add all of their different zakatable items together. Then the applicable Nisaab would be the value of 612.36 grams of silver. That's the amount that we'll use, the Nisaab of silver. So the equivalent value of this in our local currency, that is the Nisaab, and that fluctuates daily. On the 23rd of Sha'ban, just a few days ago, that is the 22nd of February, the Nisaab equaled 1,084 Australian dollars. So because it fluctuates, with the day that our zakat is due, we should check with ulama what is the Nisaab on that day. So if someone's zakatable assets is equivalent to $1,084 or so, we're going by that Nisaab, or more, and their zakat was due, let's say on the 23rd of Sha'ban, then they would have to pay 2.5% of their total wealth in zakat after subtracting all debts due that year.
But Sheikh, isn't zakat due on the day of Eid al-Fitr?
No, Abdurrahman. What you're referring to is Zakatul Fitr. We're talking about Zakatul Mal, the zakat of wealth. Zakatul Fitr is specific for the month of Ramadan on the day of Eid. But Zakatul Mal is paying zakat on the total amount of your wealth annually.
Sheikh, what is this zakat day you're talking about?
So a person's zakat day is the specific day each year, based on the Hijri calendar, the Arabic calendar, when they first earn the Nisaab amount after reaching puberty. So for instance, after you reach puberty and you acquired wealth for the very first time, and that wealth was equivalent to the Nisaab, the value of 612.36 grams of silver. So, and the date happened to be the 26th of Sha'ban, then your zakat day will be the 26th of Sha'ban every year after that. Yeah.
Sheikh, what if I can't remember when I turned baligh?
So that happens to many people. If you can't remember the exact day you became eligible for zakat, you can estimate the day you believe is most probably your zakat day. If one is unable to determine which day is probably his zakat day, then one can choose an Islamic date to pay zakat annually, and thereafter that day will be considered your zakat day. For example, if your zakat day is the 1st of Ramadan, then each year on that day, you need to calculate the total value of your zakatable assets. After that, if your wealth meets the threshold, you must give 2.5% of that amount as zakat. So if on the 1st of Ramadan, your zakatable assets are worth $10,000, you need to pay 2.5% of that, which is $250. If next year, on the 1st of Ramadan, your zakatable assets are worth $20,000, you would then give $500 in zakat. It doesn't matter how much you have in zakatable assets before or after your zakat day. What counts is what you have on that exact day.
Sheikh, aren't you supposed to have owned that wealth for 1 year?
It doesn't matter how long you had it for. If you own it on the day that your zakat is due, your zakat day, then you'll have to pay zakat on it. So for example, on your zakat day, someone gifted you gold or some cash, or he acquired it somehow. Just one day before his zakat day, he will still have to pay zakat on that.
So should I deduct what debts I owe before determining my zakat?
Yes, that's correct, Abdurrahman. You will deduct any debts that you owe before you count how much wealth you have to pay zakat on. So for example, if the total amount of your wealth on your zakat day is $10,000, but you owe $2,000 to someone, so you'll only calculate $8,000. So you'll only pay 2.5% of $8,000, not $2,000, because that $2,000 is a debt that is owed to someone. However, when it comes to debts, we'll only deduct the amount of debt that is payable within 1 year of your zakat day. So the formula is straightforward. The amount of cash that we have, plus the amount of gold that we have, plus the amount of silver that we have, plus the amount of merchandise that we have for trade purposes. Then once you've totaled that amount, you'll deduct the debts that are to be paid within that 1 year, and the remaining amount is the total zakatable amount. So let's say after subtracting all debts, you have $10,000, then you would just multiply this by 0.025%, which is 2.5%, and that would be the amount that you owe. In this case, $250.
Sheikh, thank you so much. I personally learnt a lot, and thank you to our viewers for watching another episode of The Balanced Narrative. I hope you found it as beneficial as I did, and as always, please make sure to like, share and subscribe for future videos, and until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.